The government manages a lot of things: air and water quality, roads and bridges, the tone of the national conversation. Also, once upon a time, a heckload of cheese. It all started in 1976. Jimmy Carter was running for president, and he started floating this idea.
Although I am a farmer, I am not in favor of guaranteeing farmers a profit. I am in favor of giving farmers an equal break.
This wasn't just political pandering. There's an argument that our country has to be able to produce its own food, because relying on other countries for food, that's a national security risk. Now, this was a campaign promise that nobody really expected him to fulfill. But then, he became president, and in 1977, he announced his plan to help farmers. And he wasn't alone. Congress wanted in.
We now go live to the Capitol.
We also love the farmers.
And so they passed a law for dairy farmers, saying that they wanted the price of milk to go up automatically every 6 months. There are two ways to make that happen. You either lower the supply by telling milk producers to produce less milk, or increase the demand. Our government decided that increasing consumption was more American than agriculture quotas. So they started buying milk themselves.
The Carter administration has announced a new program to increase the demand of milk. Milk prices are expected to rise as the demand...
Buckle up, Bessie.
But the thing about milk is it's kind of hard to stockpile and transport. You'd have to get all these huge tankers, and of course, it starts going bad the minute it's out of the cow. So they moved one step down the supply chain to dairy-based products, like cheese. The way this program worked is that the federal government says,
We will buy as much cheese, butter, or non-fat dry milk as you want to sell us at these prices.
Government buys more cheese, cheesemakers buy more milk, and the resulting demand pushes the price of milk up. The government is creating a price floor, and in order to do this, they have to be willing to buy all of the cheese that anybody wants to sell them at this price. And if you're a cheese seller and you hear this, you're like, well, I'm going to just sell them my worst cheese at that price. So to prevent this, the government said, look, if we're going to buy your cheese, first, you have to meet with Bob. Bob Ashabrock was a cheese grater. Cheese grater, like what a teacher does. Bob's job was to make sure that all of the cheese met USDA Grade A cheddar standards. He spent 30 years testing and tasting cheese for the United States government. He'd use his cheese trying equipment to look for the 17 flavor defects that could happen in cheddar cheese. Flat, bitter, yeasty, malty, acidic, old milk, fruity, metallic, sour, whey taint, weedy, onion, barney, lipase, and sulfate. It just goes on. Bob and his fellow cheese graters were on the road all the time, just eating cheese. And the government just kept buying and buying. Before long, every warehouse in Wisconsin was full. There was cheese in practically every cold storage in the United States. And the government needed an even bigger space to put it in. Ideally, one with its own temperature controls. So they began renting these caves in Kansas, 35 feet beneath the ground, the size of 120 football fields, and trainloads of cheese started to show up. And when news gets out that the government is filling caves with cheese, the press goes nuts.
I'm Steve Inskeep. Cheese Span is reporting that the latest chatter in cheddar is the cheese cave crisis. Ron Elving has this report.
The rind is off the government cheese program.
Eventually, Jimmy Carter left office, and Ronald Reagan was left to figure out what to do with all of this cheese. The government was buying 1 in every 4 pounds of the country's cheddar cheese.
Well, my God, Jimmy, it's all cheese.
And the clock was ticking because all this cheese was starting to get moldy. So the government needed to find a market for the stuff, and fast.
Well, they have to be careful because of something called commercial displacement. If they just send a flood of cheese onto the market, they'll end up hurting the producers they're trying to help by providing a less expensive product to meet existing demand.
So the government had the cheddar reprocessed into new bricks and started giving it away at food banks. The idea was that these consumers probably weren't going to buy cheese anyway, so you're not necessarily hurting the market. And lo, a new pop culture icon was born.
Government cheese make the best grilled cheese you'd have never had in your life.
Where do you buy government cheese?
You don't buy it.
You have to be on...
You got to be on their special mailing list.
You gotta be on the plan.
You're gonna end up eating a steady diet of government cheese and living in a van down by the river.
The government cheese caves started to empty out. The guaranteed milk price, which had been going up automatically every 6 months, was eventually frozen. But that does not mean the government had fixed the problem. The thing about price controls is that once you start them, they are really, really hard to unwind. This is a basic supply and demand problem. The government was demanding an unnatural amount of milk, and so farmers were supplying an unnatural amount of milk. One part of the solution then was to gently get that milk supply down. So the government literally paid dairy farmers to stop producing milk. That did some good. And then on the other side, the government tried to replace some of their artificial demand for milk with new, real demand for milk, which led to things like Got Milk? So this weird campaign promise had a hand in basically the two most important dairy moments in pop culture. And it served as an instant signifier of a government program gone fully off the rails.